Welcome to Reddit Aliens. What was your most terrifying near-death moment? Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. I was on the beach near Pensacola Beach. There are sandbars just under the water off the beach. I took the kayak out for a little bit. My ex-wife had come out to one of the sandbars with my youngest son. He was maybe 2. We decided to switch places. She gave me my son and she got in the kayak. I started walking back to the shore with my son when the water suddenly got very deep. Apparently, there was a very deep section between the shore and the sandbar. I lost my footing on the sandbar and went underwater. I held my son up as best I could and yelled for help. Water was coming in my mouth every time I tried to yell. I was drowning. Then I felt my son being taken out of my hand by somebody grabbing my shoulder. I was pulled back onto the sandbar and retched until all the water was out. It took a few minutes for me to feel okay enough to tread water back to the shore. I'm immunocompromised and someone got careless and I got COVID. I was in so much pain and so weak, coughing made me black out because I couldn't breathe. I started debating buying adult diapers because getting out of bed was so painful. One morning I woke up and I knew I was dying. It was painful, slow, agonizing, and terrifying. My friend came to check on me, then called an ambulance. I was so weak they worked on me for an hour in my front yard because I was so far gone they couldn't risk the 10-minute ride to the hospital. I was in the ICU for just under a week, where I died for about 15 to 20 seconds. I started to recover, and I was in a regular room after that where I needed to relearn how to walk. After I was released, I was on oxygen for 6 months because I couldn't breathe properly on my own. I still have lasting effects to this day, but I'm walking and breathing on my own now. Lucky to be alive. I'm not sure if that's a near-death experience, but it sure was traumatizing. When I was in middle school, I was returning home from school, and I saw a wooden plank and 2 large rocks. Instead of continuing to walk home like a normal person, I decided to put the middle of the plank on top of one rock and make a balanced scale type of thing. I put the other large rock on the sides of the plank, so now it's weighted down by the rock. Then I stomped on the other side as hard and fast as I could. The rock went flying. I looked up and I didn't see the rock. It disappeared, so I just assumed that the rock went flying far away. Maybe 10 seconds go by, and suddenly I feel a quick slash on my ear. I look down and I see the rock that I sent flying. So basically, I sent the rock flying upward and it landed so close to my head, it slashed my ear on its way down. And I'm pretty sure if it landed on my head, I would have died, or at least been severely injured. The rock had some sharp edges, and it wasn't a light rock. My ear wasn't really injured, I just had an annoying scratch for a couple of days. The temptation to make a stuck between a rock and a hard place reference here was probably as difficult as it was for that kid to not put that rock on that plank and step on it. It's the dad in me. This is something I reflected on 15 years later. My dad used to have a very large metal van with no insulation or air conditioning. He's a carpet installer, and frequently he would go into his carpet store and tell my brother and I to stay in the van. Well, a few times he'd done this. It was dead heat in the summer, and sometimes he would be in there for upwards of 20 to 30 minutes because he wouldn't know how to shut up. To pass the time, I purposely fell asleep in the back. Well, I didn't realize how dangerous it was for a 10-year-old boy to fall asleep in a van that was probably pushing upward of 110 degrees when it wasn't that bad out. I didn't understand how dangerous this was until recently, how bad it is for someone to pass out in a very hot environment. Could have died of heat stroke at 10 years old. No one the wiser because I just wanted to sleep. I would have been too late. I was an intern then, traveling to another state for the internship program. I traveled via vessel ship. It was almost midnight and the ocean was violent. I thought I was going to die. I tried dialing my family to say my goodbyes, but there was no service. I saw water entering our windows and floors. Others were in states of panic and the vessel was wobbling left and right to the point I can see the body of ocean already. I accepted my fate then, but fortunately, after another 40 minutes, we arrived safely. From then on, I have a phobia in the ocean. This isn't really near death, I don't think, but I could have gotten really hurt considering my age. In mid-elementary school, I think, I was on my family's pontoon boat with my dad and older sibling. My younger brother and mom were at home. My sibling and I were dipping our feet in the water since my dad was going slow. He started speeding up a little since we were getting into the deeper part of the river, still pretty shallow. He told us to sit back down in the main part of the boat. As I was getting up, I lost my balance and fell forward into the water. I went under the pontoon where it was empty and shot out the back. I was wearing my life jacket and they got me. I had a small bleeding scratch on my forehead, but it was really small and no big deal. However, I didn't realize at the time how if I were to hit the propellers, things could have went really badly. My first motorcycle crash. In the UK at 16, you can get anything 50 cc's, and at 17, you can go up to 125. Can't remember the age limit for bigger bikes. Anyway, I was riding on a 60-mile-per-hour road on my 2007 Honda CG, and I was riding in a rush uphill, and as you get to the top of the hill, it changes to a 30-mile-per-hour limit. It was following a number of cars in traffic, and at the bottom of the hill, some old twat slammed his brakes onto the turn left into a village. So everyone else followed suit, as did the lovely 70 plate vehicle was made in 2021 Range Rover Evoque. However, my little bike's brakes were that good, so I came barreling over the top of this hill, still doing about 50 because I'm in a rush, and see this like a standstill of traffic, and just about poo myself while simultaneously mumbling every prayer and swear word I can think of. I slammed the brakes on and realized pretty quickly I wasn't going to stop in time. So I began to steer to the left in order to essentially try and filter around the car. But it was too late. I clipped the rear right side of the Range Rover and bounced into the lane with oncoming traffic, while rolling in absolute agony and shock for hitting this solid object at around 45 to 50 miles per hour. In F-all but chinos and a jumper, another car comes the other way, and just by my luck, it was a learner driver. However, they swerved up the bank on their left and only just clipped my helmet and went on the sole of my shoe, twisting my ankle. In total, all I gained from that accident was an effed up knee and dodgy ankle. I could have very easily become road art that day if that learner hadn't have swerved. Definitely pooed myself a bit. I have some photos of the accident, if anyone is interested. Not sure if it's terrifying, and not sure if I would have died, but I find it funny. I was quite young, and me and my family went to Disneyland to celebrate my birthday. Quite a bit of the good rides were closed, unfortunately, but we decided to go on a Pirates of the Caribbean ride. It had a small cafe inside along with the actual ride, which was like a roller coaster, but in small boats instead of carts. Me and younger brother always sit together in amusement rides, so it was just us two in the front cart, with my dad and other younger brother behind us and everybody else. That ride was so pretty, I gotta say. Visuals were awesome. There was this one part, or area, that was like a battle between two ships. There were two ships on each side of the carts, and they were launching cannonballs and landing in the water next to you and such. It was a very pretty and cool to look at, so I leaned forward a bit in awe until I noticed that the cannonballs go wherever they want, instead of having a designated place or a spot to land. Just a whole chunk of heavy metal blasting out of cannons and going wherever apparently. I went to turn my head, and a cannonball grazed my nose, barely hitting me right in the face. My hair flew up from the gust of air, and I immediately sat back in my seat. My dad and brother were laughing and joking about suing Disneyland, and saying I should have leaned a bit more forward to get some sweet cash. It was a good time, lol. So you're saying Disney shoots cannonballs, not knowing exactly where they're going to land? Is this actually true? I've never been on the ride, so somebody who's been there, let me know. Curious. I guess I'd go on it if they did that. In elementary school, I had missed the bus and was scared to tell my mom because she had worked the night shift and would sleep during the day and is a very crabby, moody person. My friend told me that I could ride his bus and walk home from another stop. He was semi-right. This also occurred in winter, and I live in Minnesota, so it's freezing cold. But I got off the bus and walked for over 5 to 6 minutes and got lost in a field and started panicking and running frantically, thinking that I was going to die. I kept running and eventually saw a familiar area and went there and noticed I was close to home. I ran up to the door, went in, and my mom was still asleep, and I was so cold and tired. She also did not find out about this for years. I told her this like a year ago, and this happened over 8+ years ago. So basically, me and my friend had an idea to go to these 3 girls' house, and it was 40-mile winds, -2 degrees, and snowing. We walked about 1.5 miles. We were high, just sitting in a room when she says, My two brothers that are 20 and 21 are awake, and my dad. They'll probably kill y'all. We were 13 at the time, so I was scared. All of a sudden, knock, knock, knock. Brother says, "You alright? Who's in there?" Me and my friend jump out the window. I'm way more athletic than him, so I jump a fence, but he keeps running down a street. As I jump the fence, my phone falls out of my pocket into the snow. I can't get it back anymore. I keep going, jump about 7 more fences, and stay in an old lady's backyard. She was awake with her window blinds wide open. I find a nice rock to sit on, and I sit there for about an hour. She also had a shed in her backyard, so I moved slowly over to it, snow crunching loudly. I sit there and lay down for 5 more hours. 5 hours. No idea what time it is, how long it's been, nothing. I thought I was going to die. I move into the shed and suddenly hear, "We deployed drones and Air 1 over the Wallow Talkie." I come out with my hands up, and the night ends like that. I had hypothermia and phenomena. I'm traumatized from that night. I still think about that voice from her brother and him yelling, "Get back here!" and driving up and down the street screaming, "Come out, I know you little mother effers are around here." Never snuck out again. That's a lot. I read the stories, I don't judge, but this one I have at least questions about, if not doubt. -2 degrees, 40-mile-an-hour winds, and you're exposed for 6 hours to the elements? I don't know about this one. What do you think? I was very young, looking back now. I got extremely drunk on a high school overnight party. I fell and got a bit hurt. We were exploring the dark forest area and found this incredibly huge pipe with an official walkway. Pitch black and fully enclosed. We shined a light over the side and it was just dirt at the bottom of the tube, with a significant drop. In the morning, when we were leaving and piling into cars, this one slightly older guy said out loud, "If you were hurt worse, I would have just thrown you down that pipe." He was not joking at all. My blood went cold for a few moments. I would have literally never been found. I would just be a vanished person. I was at the beach with my best friend at the time, in at least 20 feet deep water on a little paddle boat. We decided to anchor ourselves down and hang out there for a bit, and so we were horsing around in the paddle boat like the dumb preteens we were when they accidentally kicked me in the nose. I was sitting on the edge, so I proceeded to fall backwards off the paddle boat into the water. I didn't expect it, and me being a stupid 10-year-old, I didn't really know how to swim. And just started sinking. Luckily, I managed to grab the chain connected to the anchor and pull myself up. I took swim lessons shortly after that. It wasn't my near-death moment, but I was the one about to end my friend's life. My friend was on a dirt bike behind me, and I was riding an ATV in front of him. I don't remember the engine size, but I got the bike when I was maybe 12, so it didn't respond well to a 16-year-old riding it. And the ATV I was driving was much larger and made for an adult. I abruptly pulled off the asphalt into the grass, thinking he would either keep going straight or brake in time. But his front wheel slammed in the front right wheel of my ATV before I had the chance to slow down enough. He flew in front of the ATV while I was still moving about 15 to 20 miles an hour. Time seemed to slow down, and I'll never forget the look on his face after he hit the ground in front of my tire. I thank God that I had enough reaction time to swerve to the left, missing his head by maybe 6 inches. I don't know how he managed it, but he cut his leg from his ankle to his knee, but later that night, he thanked me for not accidentally killing him. I was 11, and I had been sick for a few days. It seemed like a stomach bug, so nothing big. Whenever I was sick, I would sleep in my mom's bed. One night at like 2 a.m., I had woken up and asked my mom where the bathroom was. We were in the house I had always lived in, and she told me just go down the hallway. When I came back from the bathroom, I refused to come into the room again because I was hallucinating snakes all over the floor. Clearly, something was wrong, so she drove me to the ER. I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. My blood sugar was in the 900s. My body was going into ketoacidosis. My blood was basically turning into acid. It was the most pain I've ever been in. It's been over 10 years, and I can still remember it. I was in a coma for 4 days. There was a shooting at a festival I volunteered at a few years ago. The shooter was maybe 20 feet away from me when it happened. Majority of people who volunteered from different organizations, and I ran to these buses behind us. In the moment, I didn't have my phone or any of my valuables on me because I had to place them elsewhere. I was sitting in the bus by myself, freaking the F out because I didn't have anything on me, and I didn't know where I would go if this bus dropped me off somewhere. Keep in mind, it's a 30-minute drive from where I live to this location. Luckily, this couple saw me alone and volunteered to take me home and let me use their phone to call my parents. If it weren't for them, I would have been lost or dead. Not that terrifying, but unpleasant for sure. After riding home from my part-time job, it was raining really, and I mean really bad. I have this motorcycle, so as I was going home from there, my visor got so wet I couldn't see. After lifting it up, my glasses got wet, so I tried braking, and I would just push the motorcycle back home. It wasn't that far anyway. As I tried to slow down, and I couldn't see really far, I missed one big hole in the road. My front wheel fell into the hole, and I was thrown in front of the bike. I haven't broken anything, just scrapes and a few new scars, but my knee got banged up a bit. I could walk that much for 2 days, but after that it was fine.